there's a lot of kind of confusion with the decision yesterday. Some are saying it's constitutional, others are saying it's not. Can you clarify that?
Oh, it was clearly unconstitutional and disappointing. I mean, we have 3 rogue actors on this school board that, although well informed that approving the charter application by St. Isidore would violate the Oklahoma and federal constitution, they did it anyway.
And in terms of that, what comes next? Are you prepared to do something after this?
Well, so at this moment, the state of Oklahoma has not been injured, but when there is a contract that's been formulated and entered into between the charter school board and the applicant, then that's when the matter is ripe for judicial review and determination.
And is that something you would be interested in pursuing?
Well, I have a duty. I swore to the Constitution to uphold that, and so this office will lead that charge to uphold the Constitution.
And you've warned those board members previously in that first decision. Would you have to represent them as well?
No, they're acting outside their scope as board members. I mean, their vote was a vote on behalf of the board, but when you act illegally, then you're outside that protection.
And just kind of breaking down the arguments here, we have the governor saying that this is in the full scope of the law. We have some state leaders, Speaker of the House, President Pro Tem, kind of following suit with that. Can you dive into what is the First Amendment problem here?
Right, so the first clause of the First Amendment says government will make no law affecting the establishment of religion. And although those in the political narrative are saying, oh, this is a great victory for political liberty, in fact, it's the opposite. It's what we've done as of yesterday. We took a stake and drove it in the heart of religious liberty. So now granting the Catholic Charter, if there's a satanic application, we have to grant it. If there's a Sharia law applicant, we have to grant that. And I think, although Oklahomans in general would support any Christian activity, this is not about Christian and non-Christian. This is about, the rule of law. And as the state's chief law officer, I have to defend the state and make sure that we not eviscerate our religious liberty. So my objective is to establish and maintain religious liberty into perpetuity by the upholding of our Constitution. And we can't eviscerate that.
And I know O'Connor previously was citing some other cases, some previous cases.
Right.
Can you break that down a little bit?
Right. So my predecessor, relying on law affecting private schools, gave an opinion that misuses the law. This is a charter school, which has been determined by the 10th Circuit to be a state actor. So a state actor is different than a private actor. Just like our school vouchers, the state can give an individual parent a voucher to apply to a private university school or a parochial school at their choice. That's not a state actor. But here, the school board, a state actor, is diverting taxpayer funds to a sectarian effort.
We're already expecting potential lawsuits with this. Would taxpayers have to foot the bill for any of this? How does that work?
Right, so that in the end, if there's an injury that's manifested beyond a restraining order, that's probably what would happen. But if there are damages, the statute permits treble damages. So for example, for ease of math, let's say we fund $1 million. The damages to the Oklahoman that brings an action against this is 3 times $1 million or $3 million. And it's designed so that we discourage illegal action by the state of Oklahoma. But we've thrown caution to the wind.
And taxpayers would have to pay for that at
Ultimately,
the end of the day.
yes.
In terms of Senate Bill 516, I believe it is, which would dissolve that board, kind of redo that entire process, do you see any legal issues with that in this decision?
No, I really don't. I mean, that law will become enacted this fall, so the future actions will be at the State Board of Education level through the legislation that was just passed. But in that legislation, it continued to stay that funds by the state will not go toward sectarian interests. And so we continue to have the protection of the law, and these actors have acted outside the law to violate our Constitution.
And now that we have tax credits that could be used for private school education, is there a concern with the crossover on that?
No, it's really distinct. The legislature appropriating money to individuals to spend as they wish is not a state action. It's the individual directing those monies to parochial or non-parochial schools. In this instance, with the state school board, we're acting as a state in violation of the law.
And in terms of that member being replaced kind of late in the game, I guess for lack of better terms, is there any issue with that taking that vote?
Oh, I mean, I think if you want to get very technical, that individual didn't have standing to vote. But that could be cured with resignation and a subsequent appointment and resolution. So yes, technically, not that individual did not have standing at law. Others would disagree with that, but it could be cured with resignation and a new letter.
In representation terms on your part too, the state superintendent is facing a few different lawsuits by former employees. Would you have to represent him?
Okay, that's a totally different analysis. So the State Department of Education has lawyers on staff. And so I anticipate more likely than not that those lawyers would defend the superintendent and his chief of staff.